Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to episode number 39 of the Livin The Dream video podcast, celebrating the success stories of all of our great graduates from the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting. I'm Rishi Barran, and very excited to have with me today a guy who, I tell you what, every time I get to talk to him on the phone, and it's frequent enough, I'm glad we've been able to keep touch the way we have. Always brings a smile to my face because he's one of those guys who just goes out and gets it and enjoys life. Austin Parr joining us from KWYB-TV in Bozeman, Montana. Also works for the SWX brand, Nonstop Local Sports. We'll get into all the things he does and what I honestly think has been like an amazing first job. Austin, my only big apology is that this is episode number 39, the Fast Willie Parker, former Steelers running back edition. I don't think we knew each other long enough for you to be to episode 8 or 24 for your hero, Kobe Bryant. We'll get to that in just a little bit, but you're joining us from your office today. How are things going in Montana?
Things are going good. I really appreciate being on. I've been so excited for my slot on this Livin The Dream podcast. I'll tell you what, though, the weather here in Bozeman, we are enjoying this middle of October, 75 degrees, because usually it's about freezing at this point. But everything's going great. Montana State, best start since 1978. It couldn't ask for a better job right now, honestly. And I'm just super excited to be here. Thanks for having me on.
We're excited to have you on because you're the perfect example of somebody who, was willing to take a chance on himself and believe in what your long-term goals are and what you're going to achieve, and you've put the work in to do it. Lots to tell about Austin's stories over this next hour, but why don't we start with, where did this dream begin for you?
It's a good question. I call myself a bit of a late bloomer. So when I was in high school, I actually wanted to be a sports agent, believe it or not. And then once I found out that most sports agents are lawyers, I was like, I don't think that's for me, because I'm not going to go to another 8 or 4 years extra of school or whatever it takes to become a lawyer. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I graduated high school. I kind of went to Moorpark Community College out in Ventura County. I was only doing that because all my friends were doing that, and I was still wanting to play sports. I wanted to play baseball. Unfortunately, tore my meniscus in my left knee after already tearing my meniscus in my right knee. So sports kind of ended, school kind of ended. I went the restaurant route. I kind of worked my way up through different restaurants, became lead bartenders, lead servers, and I was making a lot of money. And I didn't really know what I wanted to do. And then it's just kind of hit me one of these years when I was about 24, 25. I was listening to a lot of different broadcasts, whether it was Monday Night Football, whether it was Christmas Day basketball games, World Series baseball games, playoff baseball games. And I would look at all the different positions, right? The play-by-play, the color, or the sideline reporters, or even the ESPN anchors on TV. And I said, I can do that. I feel like I can do that. And not only can I do that, I feel like I can do it better than a lot of those people. And then it was like, okay, well, how does this work? And I didn't really take it seriously, but for the next couple years, I kept seeing these advertisements on my Facebook page because, analytics, when you start talking about stuff, it jumps on your page, right? Every time you start talking about golf clubs, jumps on your Instagram. Here, buy these golf clubs, right? So the Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting kept popping up on my Facebook page. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Kept looking at it. And finally, I was like, I'm going to check this out. And so that's kind of where the dream started. I flew out to Florida, checked out the school, did a couple of tours, saw the studio, thought it was incredible. I was more than willing to move out there. And then once I applied, I started in January of 2020. And then COVID hit, and that kind of ruined all the plans to eventually go out to Florida and be able to use the studio and stuff. So I was purely online, but yeah, it's kind of where the dream started, and here we are in Bozeman, Montana, SoCal kid in Bozeman.
Little bit of the whole nation involved here, right? You're out in California, you're going to check out a school in Florida, you end up being able to do it all from California, and then you end up in Montana, which I'm gonna bet was not your expectation for where you were gonna end up. But before we get to all that, You grew up in California, right? You were in Long Beach, and I know, as you mentioned, you were a big sports fan from a long time during it. What was your earliest memory of sports making an impact on your life?
That's a great question. I think the earliest one was that I can remember right now is the Kobe Shaq era of the Lakers and them just winning championships, and not only just winning, but it was kind of like the process of what they went through to get there, and just listening to all the post game interviews with Kobe and Shaq and Derek Fisher and Rick Fox and some of these legendary guys that are not only legends on the court, but they're legends off the court, and the way they teach certain things to certain people, and the certain mindsets that they preach. Obviously you can see the mama mentality behind me. That's kind of something I grasped onto, like when I was very young, was just kind of trying to emulate what Kobe does every day in and day out. And nobody's going to be like Kobe, right? He was a unicorn, he was a special human being. But that kind of started, it didn't really translate right away, obviously, but those moments of just watching the Lakers and what they went through the probably about 6 to 8 years of dominance they had with Shaq and Kobe, that was something that had a huge impact on my life. And I think that's where my true fandom for the Lakers started. And you say this is episode 39 for Willie Parker. I am actually a Steeler fan as well, so this is actually
Forgot
good
about that.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, family's been immersed in sports forever, and I think those moments of just thinking back to where I can remember where I was when they were winning those championships and playing teams like the Sacramento Kings every single year in the postseason. Vlade Divac, Peja Stojakovic, like some of the random names that you're kind of forget about in today's world. Like those are some of the specific sports memories that impacted my life to become an actual fan, not just kind of like somebody who's watching the games.
Well, remember, Vlade is the reason they got Kobe, right? That was the
Yep.
trade, Vlade for that pick, and Jerry West knew what he was doing. And it's so random, Austin. I got a call from one of my good friends last night on the eve of recording this episode with you, who was someone who actually went to high school with Kobe. So I knew that was going to be part of our conversation today. I'm like, oh, that's awesome that I got to touch base with someone who has ties to Kobe before I talk to you. But what was it about Kobe that clearly has made him one of your heroes and someone that is a great role model for how you lead your life?
I think the biggest thing is the work ethic, right? I mean, he was always the guy that was going to be the first one in the gym and the last one out. And there's always, you hear people talk about being that guy, but there's so many examples, especially post, him retiring and obviously passing away and things like that. But there's so many stories about these athletes that I hear that's, Kobe would ask them to show up for a workout, and all of a sudden they would show up about 30 minutes early. And Kobe had already been there for like an hour and a half, 2 hours, full sweat, right? And they go in through their shoot around, through their workout. The guys, so the players who he asked come to, those workouts, they would leave after a nice 2-3 hour workout and go shower and, get ready to go out, or they're going out to dinner or whatever. And they'd come back in the gym, and Kobe's still in the gym 2 hours later, head to toe in sweat. It's that constant effort to just be not only better than everybody else, but the mindset of like, he let people know mentally that they will never outwork him. And I think that's the biggest thing I took into this mindset with going into school and things like that. I wanted to be the person that not only like I told myself I was going to be the hardest working person in school and in this job and things like that, but I wanted other people to know that I was very serious about this. And I want people to feel like they're not going to outwork me. I'm willing to do so many different things. I'm a big time yes man. Sometimes it gets me in trouble at home because I'm working too many hours, or I'm saying yes to too many things, traveling around all over Montana and different states and stuff. But, I think it's a very competitive industry. And as you know, obviously, that's kind of the mindset you have to have if you want to be successful, especially early on.
Gordy Hershiser, one of our instructors, likes to talk about how there are certain things in life that you can control, and you can't control, you can't control who's going to hire you, things like that. What you can control is how you present yourself and all the work that you put in. And it seems like that Mamba mentality nurtured a lot of those feelings for you. You had just quoted Kobe before we even started recording today. You were dropping Kobe quotes on us, on me, as you were just. I mean, it was just like natural to you because that's just part of your mindset. Is there a quote or a way of being that you learned from Kobe that especially helps you with the sportscasting now?
Um, it's ironically, I don't know if it's ironically, but it is the one that sits behind me because when you think about the constant quest to be the best version of yourself, that's in all walks of life, right? So, especially with this job, like I have to, why do I go to the gym? Well, I go to the gym so that I look good, so that I look good on camera and I have self confidence on camera, or, the constant quest to look at my previous work, right? The stuff that I was talking about to you, when I first started in Helena, I don't even want to look at that stuff, but it's a way to get better and it's a way to grow. And if you're not growing, you're not going to get any better, especially in this industry. You have to be willing to have that want to be the best version of yourself. And you got to ask yourself, what is the best version of yourself in the sportscasting industry? And what I do is I just every day, how can I make this stand up better? How can I make this feature better? How can I make this, I'm doing a recap of a press conference yesterday, but it's like, how can I make this interesting, or how can I make it better than last week's? It's just like I said, the constant quest to be the best version of yourself, but not only the best version of yourself, the best version of myself as a reporter or a play-by-play guy, sideline reporter, et cetera, all the jobs that I've been so blessed to be able to do with this company. But yeah, I live by that one all the time.
Austin does all those things, covering Montana State as a beat reporter for his station in Bozeman, Montana. And I'm excited to hear more about the travel stories because I know you traveled with the team from time to time and things like that too. But you mentioned being an athlete and you were a baseball player, and those knees, which are pretty important in any athletic realm, maybe kept you from going deeper into that as a career. But what did you do as a young child and a teenager and all that? What kind of sports were you involved with?
When I first started, and this is, my mom tells this story all the time. She knew from the moment I was about 3 years old that I was going to be the most competitive person on the planet. So I was a big baseball guy. I was hitting a pitch ball when I was 2 years old. I had, family friends always wanting, my mom was always at work, businesswoman, of course, but they were the ones always teaching me how to hit balls and, play catch and things like that. The competitive story is funny because I went up, this is T-ball. We're about 3 years old, 4 years old. And I went up to my mom's best friend, who is the director of baseball in Long Beach at El Dorado Park in Long Beach, California. And I said, when do we get to win? Because we didn't get trophies the previous year. Everybody kind of got their ribbons or whatever it was. And then she said, Austin, you don't get to win till you're about 6 or 7. And I said, okay, I'm not playing. And I walked away. And I didn't play. I didn't even play that season as a 3-year-old or 4-year-old, however old I was, because I just wanted to win. Baseball was my sport through and through. I played not only just the regular seasons, but I always did all-stars. I always did the travel teams in the summer. Then when I got to high school, I was like, I really want to play football. I don't know what came about it, but I didn't start playing football until high school. I started as a freshman, became a linebacker, became a tight end. I hate defense. I'm not a fan of defense. It's just not my style. I'm an offensive guy. Played tight end till about my junior year. That's when I tore my meniscus in football my junior year. So that kind of cost me my baseball career in the high school realm because I was starting to get looks as a junior. And then it just kind of all went spiraling downhill. So I quit football in high school, continued baseball my senior year. I actually was a backup catcher. I was catcher all my life. That's why the knees are important, obviously. But senior year, I was a backup catcher to my best friend, Walker Shaw. And it was a phenomenal experience. I'm really glad that I went through that baseball season and didn't decide to just hang it all up all together. But yeah, I mean, I was just baseball, football, and then outside of high school, I did play a little basketball as well. So
How does the grind, the ups and downs of all the things you just mentioned throughout your athletic career, how does it compare to the grind you go through now working in sports television?
I think it's very comparable. I mean, especially the football season, right? So you're going through not only two-a-days, which are kind of at the end of summer, but your summer workouts, it's a grind. Like it is 95 degrees almost every single day. I mean, you're on the hot turf out there in Thousand Oaks, California. Yes, you're only a high school student. That's kind of the only thing you have to focus on, but you're doing lifts and you're doing meetings and you're going through a lot of different things that take away your ability to have friends, right? So your ability to go out and swim at the pool or go have barbecues or doing that because you made a commitment to a team to play football. And the grind is, I mean, especially when you get to those two-a-days and you got to put on your pads at 7 o'clock at night after you've already had a 6 a.m. practice, and you don't want to do that. Like your body's so tired, right? It's kind of the same thing in TV, especially during the football season. Fridays, Thursday, Friday, Saturdays are big sports days out here in Montana because we pride ourselves in covering all things high school. So there's days and times where I have to go cover something on a Thursday night across the state of Montana, come back, do all the different jobs that I do that comes with covering that, cover a high school football game on Friday night, probably don't get home till around 11, 12 o'clock, but I got to be up at 5 a.m. in the morning because I have to be on the morning show to talk about Montana State football. Has a home game later on that afternoon.
Mm-hmm.
So it is a grind. I mean, it is absolutely a grind, but it's sports at the end of the day. And I thought about this a lot when I played football in high school. Sometimes you have to remind yourself, this is fun. That's it. Like, yes, this is a job, and yes, it gets stressful, and there's deadlines and things you have to meet and all the different places you got to travel and you're tired. There's plenty of times where you may not have it on camera, but you got to try. You got to try to bring it every single day, no matter how tired you are. Nobody knows how many different spots of Montana you've been in those 3 days, right? All they care about is what's happening on their screen. So especially, I'm not a morning guy. Being a restaurant guy, I worked at night all the time. Being up for that morning show has really helped me because no matter how tired I am, the producers always tell me, man, you always bring the energy on Saturday. We love it. We love it. And I'm like, I'm never going to, my eyes may be drooping. I may be looking like I'm real tired, but you will never know how tired I am because I will always bring the energy.
Austin Parr, great advice with that and on how to get through the grind. And look, you told me earlier that growth is important to you. You want to keep growing. You want to keep getting better in all aspects of life. How does the Austin Parr who is going to high school in California compare to the Austin Parr now?
That's a wild difference, right? It's amazing how long, it kind of took me, like I said, kind of the late bloomer with school. Well, it kind of took me a long time to mature. I had to go through a lot of different personal events throughout my 20s to kind of not only humble me a little bit, but look at life in a different perspective, right? High school me didn't really care about grades or being successful. All I wanted to do was play sports and hang out with my friends. And that was all that was important to me, really. And now it's I've gone through so much stuff, especially with therapy and growing as a person and just looking at all those experiences and taking certain things of going throughout my 20s. I had to learn so much. I had to fail a bunch of different times, especially in the restaurant industry. I had to make, I made a lot of decisions that I wish I didn't make back then, now that I know what I know now. But the difference is I tell Julia this all the time, my now wife, because we are now married going on a month and a half now. But I tell her that we've known each other since we were 20, right? Either she had a boyfriend or I always had a girlfriend. It just never really worked out. We were always friends. But I tell her all the time, like, look, I had to go through what I went through in my 20s, the immaturity factor, the things that I had to grow from to give you the best version of myself in my 30s. And I really think that at 34 years old now, I am close to the best version of myself. Physically, we can always be in better shape, but mentally, I think I'm there. And I've grown so much since, even the last 5 years, let alone the last 15 plus years it's been since I've been out of high school. So.
And you brought up something important too, that, therapy can be a helpful tool. And a lot of people, and I think it's great that it's become more of a known thing, like or more of an accepted thing, I guess, amongst the world, that people realize the value of it. How did that get you to the next level of your growth?
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it's very important that it's become accepted in society, right? Because I think that everybody should try therapy if they are going through something. But the main reason why I went through therapy was my brother had passed away when I was 25 years old, and he was only 18, and he had or my the way I process things was not healthy. So I'm the oldest. So I was always the one that looked out for all my family members. I was kind of the rock. I made sure that everybody else was okay, but I never made sure that myself was okay. And like I was always the type that was, oh, guys, men don't cry, boys don't cry, we just don't do that. Hide your feelings. And so I always tucked everything down as deep as it could possibly go. I learned that going through therapy, and now it did take her about 6 months, my therapist, to break me. But once she did, I learned so much through therapy of it's okay to not be okay. Number one, that's the biggest quote you get out of therapy, not just, any therapist, but that's what I got out of it. It's okay to talk about your feelings. It's okay to be sad. It's okay to be emotional. It's okay to shed some tears if you're watching a sad movie or something like that. It's not a bad thing to show emotion. And I know I'm kind of getting off track here, but I learned so much throughout therapy that changed my perspective on not only how to live my life, but how to go after what I wanted. And once I went to therapy for 2 years, that was kind of around the same time where I decided to go back to school. And she helped me with that process of, what staying on track and doing what I have to do. And if it wasn't for therapy and some of that stuff, I might not be here. I might not have got to meet you, which was, one of the greatest things on the planet. Still my favorite teacher. No offense to all the other instructors, but
Well, thank you. That means a lot to me, and
yeah.
it's great that's how one thing can just open so many doors for you. And you mentioned how you were there for your family when they needed you. What did you take from your growing up with your family that has helped you become a better person too?
Well, my family's a little different. I think where I got my, ability to not talk about my feelings and kind of push everything down, I kind of got that from my mom. And that's just kind of how our family's been. We're not the type of family that, is very like lovey-dovey, let's give hugs and, I love you, blah, blah, blah. That's just not how we are. We're more of like a sports all the time. My mom had three boys, so sports, tough boys. We had about 35 surgeries between the three of us. I mean, that's
Wow.
just kind of like
My
how
God.
we've been built. Um, so I think more so I learned from my half sister, who is same dad, not the same mom. I learned a lot from her about just being able to express, emotions and kind of like balancing relationships. She was always really good at that because we have so many different family members between stepmoms and stepdads and grandparents. And, we're kind of like a giant family tree. But I still do credit my therapist, Nancy, with kind of changing the narrative, right? I think the biggest thing
Hmm.
is that Julie and I talk about is we are making a generational change. We both
Yeah.
come from families that are multiple divorces, multiple marriages, and that's not what we want to do. I mean, we
Hmm.
don't speak about the D word. We don't talk about that. We don't talk
Sure.
about ending anything like that. We are making a generational change. And a lot of that I learned from my therapist. And now my mindset is just way different. And my family in turn will be different once we get there.
Yeah, and that's so important to kind of break the bad cycles and create new good cycles for your family moving forward. And clearly, it's brought you to be the best version of yourself too. And that version of yourself brought you to Full Sail. You did go to Moore Park College for a bit, and you said you kind of, I don't know, went through the motions is kind of the way you brought it. But did you take anything from your studies there that helped you with where you are now?
Yeah, I was going through the motions. I wanted to play baseball at Moore Park. That didn't really work out because of injuries, and it wasn't in the cards. But my best friend still played baseball at Moore Park, the one I backed up in high school, and so he went to his athletic director, and she created the schedule for him. And so I just copied and pasted his schedule into my schedule. I didn't even know what I wanted to do.
That's funny.
I think he was doing like something business or something like that. So I just took all those classes, didn't take them seriously. But what I did take from my studies was later at Moore College. I went back after not really taking it seriously and flunking out of a lot of classes and just not really showing up and kind of doing that whole thing. I went and took 2 classes and I really enjoyed those classes. And I took them seriously and I tried. I put in a lot of effort. The amount of effort that I would put in sports, I put into these 2 classes. And I got my first A's in like 10 years. I didn't really get a lot of A's in high school. I was the kid in high school that had to take classes in summer school while playing football because I didn't take the class seriously, like English or Spanish or something like that in high school. So I think that helped me at Moore to kind of realize mentally, like, look, if you put your mind to this, you can do it. And once I decided, like, it's kind of now or never. You're 28 years old. What are we doing here? Let's go back to school. And if you're going to go back to school, take it as serious as possible. And I definitely did that. Every class, I put all the effort I could into it. And that's the biggest thing with the school too, is you hear it so much from graduating students, is you get what you put in. I mean, even us online students, I got so much out of this school. Like, I am way more prepared, I can already tell, than all of the reporters in this state, just based on solely that I went to this program. And it shows.
Well, that's what we're here for. And we're very happy to hear that it's worked out well for you in the actual industry. I think one thing that was cool about you was you were part of a class that had a big support system and you guys encouraged each other. I know you and Jackson Cochran have become such really close friends. And then, the rest of your group, Jesse, Jordan, everybody else that was part of it. How did having a group within an online class that was so tight knit make going through the process while everybody's in a different state easier?
It made it a lot easier, especially because with the unknowns of what was happening with COVID, right? Nobody really knew what was going on. And also in California, California shut down a lot more than every other state. So it wasn't like I could just go to the high schools and like get some reps at, my old Thousand Oaks High School right down the street or anything like that. But Jackson and I made it a point to where we're on a Zoom, if not every day, every other day, and going over our work and how we can improve and just talking to each other and being each other's support system. I did have, luckily, my girlfriend at the time, Julia, was right by my side as well. But in the beginning of that, she was living in Arizona. So it wasn't like we were always side by side. So having Jackson, he was the main one. Him and I became like really close friends. Like you said, I went to his wedding. He came to mine, and it was just, it's something that, you need that support sometimes when you're going through tough times. Like, I wasn't working. I didn't really know what was going to happen nobody really knew what was going to happen with the world and the restaurant industry, and whether we were ever going to go back to work or how we're going to get jobs coming out of COVID, even in this industry that we're going to school for. So I think having Jackson by my side, I will always be indebted to him. And I think he feels the same way as me. Is we both helped each other through that program, and we both killed it. I mean, we both did a great job and took it seriously, and look where we are at now.
Yeah, and you brought up your restaurant industry experience. That was a big part of your life for more than a decade, and much like you're doing now in broadcasting, you were in a lot of different roles, from server to trainer to host and all that. What was life like working in the service industry at, several different restaurants?
Hectic is like the biggest word I like to use for the restaurant industry. It's not for everybody. I'll tell you that. You have to be able to multitask a lot. Like, I mean, there's multiple times I worked for 3 corporate companies. So these are companies that are constantly busy, always. Like Cheesecake Factory, for example, it's always busy. And sometimes they cut down on servers later in the day. So you're taking 9, 10, 11 tables. I mean, the most tables I've had at one time is 16 tables.
Wow.
One human. And I'm one guy, right? Thank goodness you have your service assistants and things like that, but you have to be able to hit on all your points of multitasking. And the same thing with Mastros. But what I loved about Mastros the most was I had so much support around me at Mastros because it's such a fine dining establishment that I turned into basically an entertainer. And all I would do is sell wine, but also like, and sell them all these different kinds of foods and seafood towers, and try to get them to enjoy their experience, but also enhance their experience. And then I would just use my personality. Like, you and I having a conversation here, it'd be like if you were coming to get a steak, and I would just talk to people constantly. And that's how I built relationships. And my best relationship, I don't, I'm not trying to brag or anything, but my regular at Mastros in Thousand Oaks was Jamie Foxx before I left.
Wow.
He would only request me.
Huh.
I never messed anything up on his order. He would always hand me his Amex card, and he'd be like, what I want, and I'm like, okay, yeah, like whatever they want. And then we would just chat. I'd get him. He'd always drink a Cura Royale, which is like a champagne with a little bit of raspberry liqueur in it, because he was always, not trying to drink his calories, and, in movie roles and things like that, he would always tell me. But we would just chat. I mean, he's the nicest guy on the planet. Sometimes he'd bring in friends that were a little rowdy, but at the end of the day, he always called ahead, and he always wanted me to serve him. And I thought that was really cool. But that's the cool part about Mastros, is you get to serve people like that. Andrew Whitworth came in a lot. Rams, now retired lineman, nicest guy you'll ever meet. I mean, it's just that stuff is fun. But then once I told everybody that I was going to school for sports broadcasting, all my regulars were like, "Oh, you're so great for this. You're going to do so well. We're so excited to see your journey." And so it's been exciting. I get people that still kind of check in on me from the restaurant industry all the time that are like, "We just watch," because I share all my links on my personal socials as well, like all my stories and things like that. So they all keep tabs, and they all love it. And it's been a great journey so far.
It would be amazing to bring it full circle and have you up on Thursday Night Football with Andrew and bring it together from Mastros to the NFL, right?
Oh, absolutely. That would be amazing. That's the ultimate goal, right? We're going to get up there one of these days.
But you're right. There's a lot in common. Essentially, what you're trying to do as a server, just like a broadcaster, is connect with people. What made you successful as a server to maybe be a better server than anybody else?
I think it's personality is a big thing for servers. If you don't have that, well, you have to care, right? The biggest thing is caring. That's the first thing, because you're taking care of people. If you don't care, people notice it right away. And also people notice, fakeness. And I'm never fake. I'm never somebody that I'm not. I'm always my true self. I think what set me aside from a lot of other people is I was really good at reading people. I knew how to address certain people's needs before they could tell me what they needed. Like, it's just kind of a certain thing that you pick up as a server. I think it's a big time talent that you can have. And I also love making people laugh. I mean, I know how to poke fun at people. I know how to just build those relationships. And I think that's, really played a big part in the early part of my sports broadcasting career too. Because as we know, this business is all about relationships. That's what you always tell me. So I think that's what kind of set me aside from some of the other servers. And that allowed me to get the best sections and get the best schedules. And, I always made those relationships with my managers too. So that's what kind of set me aside from everybody else.
That's Austin Parr of ABC and Fox Montana. He has been there for about 2.5 years now, and we're going to get deeper into that in just a minute. But your now wife, and then girlfriend, and then fiance. I mean, there's different layers to this, right? Who moved from Arizona, and then you were together in California. What did she think of you going through this program, seeing you go through all this work you had to do in addition to actually working on the side too?
She loved it. I mean, she kind of knew my journey when I was going through my 20s and being in the restaurant industry. She would show up at some of the restaurants that, I'd be at, just to see if I was working, but like not even, but, I'd be working, but she wouldn't even sit in my section because she was too nervous. She just wanted to like see me in person, but she was my biggest support system. And she knew that like I told you earlier, I signed a contract basically with myself with this school of I'm going to put in 110% effort in this. And she had my back the entire time. There was never a chance where if I wanted to go, if she wanted to go do something and I had an assignment that was due or something that I needed to get ahead of as far as research or anything like that, she knew always. And she was the one that told me school is 1A, Julia is 1B. And I'm like, that's the greatest thing. That right there is what made our relationship really grow and really thrive throughout this process, because she was right by my side and knew that school came first. I never put school on the back burner, took it seriously. She knew it, she saw it, she supported it. She was there when I graduated, getting, you could see all the awards that I got and stuff too. And that's the main cause of that is because of the contract I signed basically with myself and how serious I took everything.
You went through a program that's a little different than traditional, right? Month to month, very, very important on the doing, right? The learning, watching, doing. How did Full Sail's style fit your style for success?
I think it actually fit my style greatly. I think it's something that it's so condensed, right? Everything is so condensed when you're doing one or two, sometimes three classes per month. You don't have time to get behind. You just can't. And that is something that I used to do at Moore College is I would be like, okay, well, this assignment's not due for 3-4 weeks, or I don't have to study for this test for a long, long time. Whereas, with the program at Full Sail, it's like you have to be on top of your stuff from day one, month number one. Otherwise, you're toast and you're going to get really far behind. So I think with my ADD brain and my getting distractions and things like that, I had no time to get distracted because I was so locked into my work every single month. And I love the format. And I think the format's one of the main reasons why I thrive so well in the program.
With all the different kinds of classes and everything that you're learning on the fly, where did you see the biggest areas of growth in yourself as a broadcaster?
As far as school,
Mm-hmm.
it's a good question. I'd have to think back. I'm thinking back here to some of the courses, but there was a couple different classes where I think the vocal coaching and the vocal training is actually something that can really help you out, because you have to learn how to have inflection and how to breathe while you're talking, and how to just say certain things and certain words, and how you should emphasize on the backside of certain sentences and not in the middle. And I think that stuff right there, if you can hone in on your craft doing those vocal trainings, you could already make huge jumps from those three courses right there, just because now you're learning how to talk. And then once you learn how to talk, you're learning how to, they always say, find your voice. You're learning how to find your voice, your on camera personality, your on camera voice through those three classes. And then, obviously there are certain things once you get into the advanced courses of Full Sail that really help you grow. But I really enjoyed those vocal training classes.
Well, when it was all over, you ended up class valedictorian. You ended up with the Advanced Achiever Award, which is the highest honor you can receive at Full Sail at graduation. And you had a special moment planned for when you actually walked across the stage. Can you tell us that story?
Yeah, I didn't think about this until probably about a week before graduation. I said to myself, how can I not give thank you, but almost like give recognition to somebody who has had instilled a mindset in me that's helped me to get to this point, because I had already known about the awards that I was going to be receiving and things like that. So I was like, how can I do this? And I was like, okay, well, we're going to have a robe over the top, and then we're going to get on stage and you kind of get your moment. What can I do that's going to be special to me, but also special in giving recognition? And so I wore my Mamba mentality Kobe Bryant jersey under my robe, of course. And when I was very nervous too, by the way. Like, there were so many lights going on. I didn't really know what to expect either, because of all the COVID situation and things that were happening. But I was kind of blown away with all the production value that went into the graduation, even though it was still some of the messages were, on the computer and Zoom and things like that. But once you get on stage, it's like a wow factor. And I was very nervous, and so I kind of forgot exactly what I did, but I made sure to kind of, lift my robe up and make sure that everybody saw my jersey, and pose for a couple pictures with the Mama Mentality jersey. And that was kind of my, thank you or homage to Kobe, of somebody who's just been so important in my life and will always be very important in my life, and the mentality that he instilled in me to be successful.
Brought it all back full circle. You got to spend time with all of those online graduates that you went through the program with. What type of day was that for you? What did it mean to you to be back on the campus that you had visited long ago, but then took the program online and now you were returning for the pinnacle of your academic achievement?
It brought back some feelings of just like, wow, like it was like, it's hard to explain because I was planning on going to the school, and then COVID happens, and to kind of just look at that entire journey and to be in the same spot and think back of like, wow, I was just taking a tour of this campus like 2.5 years ago. It was so gratifying. Like it felt so good to be back in there, and not only be back there, but get to meet my online students that I had only, been like this in Zoom with. And I think the funniest thing was when I met Jackson for the first time. He didn't realize how tall I was. And so he kind of freaked out a little bit. He was just like, whoa, like you're so much bigger in person.
Yeah.
But it was also a blessing because I will always thank Richard I met Richard Teeman at graduation, Mr. T-Man himself. And he had not been able to graduate or walk on his graduation day. So he, I feel like everything happens for a reason, right? And there was a reason why we got to graduate that day, and he chose that day. And we were going through kind of like the pre-ceremony things, and we were talking to everybody. And Richard's close to my last name, so we were in the back of the line. And I just started talking with him. And I had seen him on a couple of episodes, when they flash videos of certain students' projects and things like that. And he was talking about me about this new job in Montana. Oh my goodness, I'm going to Great Falls, Montana. So excited. He was just talking this job up. And I said, hey, I'm graduated. Let me know if there's ever a job opening, and I'll move to Montana. Like, was I serious about it at the time? I don't know. Probably not, because I'm a California guy. But here's the thing, that was we graduated in March, I believe, or April. And then he called me in July and said, hey, we have an opening in the capital city. Why don't you apply for it? And I did. And I took a leap of faith, went straight through the interview process. And they're like, hey, you want to move to Helena, Montana? We need you in 3 weeks. And I was like, sure, why not? And so, that's it. I will always thank Richard for being in that moment, because he helped me get my first job in the industry. And here we are. We got a promotion in the first 6 months, and I've been in Bozeman ever since, and it's awesome. So,
Well, that brings us
bring it all back to the graduation. It was surreal to be there.
That brings us to the next big question. What's it like living the dream now?
It's awesome. I do admit, I have to remind myself that this is the dream that I always wanted, because like I was saying earlier, it gets stressful. It is very stressful, especially when you're on the road and you've got a laptop editor that may not be working the greatest to run Premiere Pro, but you've got deadlines and you've got this and that. And you feel like it's putting gray hairs on your head because you're so stressed every time you hit the road. At the end of the day, and I remind myself a lot, and I really want people to remind themselves too, this is sports. We're reporting on sports for a living. It is a dream. That is exactly what it is. All my friends, all my family back home, they tell me all the time. They are the ones that remind me too, hey, you're living the dream that all of us would always want to do. And they're so proud and they're so happy. So it's an incredible feeling. I love it. I mean, I right now I'm in the middle of football season. Montana State's having their best year since 1978, 7-0 for the first time, which obviously for FCS programs that have tough non-conference schedules, they just don't really get to be undefeated because they're playing FBS schools. So they got to win over FBS New Mexico in week 1, and they've launched ever since. They were supposed to have a test last Saturday night in prime time, number 7 Idaho versus number 3 Montana State. They beat them 38-7. It wasn't even close. So it's just incredible. I mean, the game was on ESPN too. I'm in Bozeman, Montana. I got horses the rodeo team runs out with the football team on the field. It's one of the most unique runouts in sports. And you got to sit there sometimes and be like, wow, this is my job. Like, this is incredible. This is the reason why I put in so much work in school, and I took things seriously. And, I built the relationships and continuing to build the relationships that I have to just live the dream every single day, no matter where it takes me. And I have a lot of thanks to you as well, Rishi, obviously. It's just awesome. It's great. I love it.
But you never would have got there if you didn't say yes to it, right? So you said Richard brought it up at graduation. You kind of jokingly said, "Yeah, I'll be there," right? But eventually you got the offer and you had to make that decision, and you had to move your family across to the middle of the country, place you probably hadn't maybe ever been before. What made you say yes?
I'll tell you what, getting that contract offer wasn't making me say yes. I'll tell you that much. Especially because I was working at Mastro's. I was on pace to make $100,000 that year. So I think I had to sit there, and I talked with, my mom. I talked with my dad. I talked with my brothers and sisters. I talked with my best friends. Of course, I talked with Julia as well, my now wife. But the biggest thing that I got back from everybody was, if not now, when? What are you going to do? You're going to sit in California and wait for the right job to come around and still work in the restaurant every single day. And then, you're going to have to get an apartment in Southern California in a condo, because I had moved back in with my mom to go back to school. She was, it was a blessing that she allowed me to do that. And she was actually moving to Texas at the time. So she was like, look, you and Julia, you guys are together. You're out of school. Here you go. And I was like, okay. So I think the biggest thing was, if not now, when? And why not go try and get your feet wet? Go experience something besides California. I had never lived outside of California besides the state of Washington when I was about 9, 10 years old, but don't really remember much of that. And so I just said yes. And I'll tell you what, Helena, Montana, being a SoCal boy, that is a culture shock, big time. We think that Thousand Oaks, California is a small town, about 125,000, 130,000 people. You get to the capital of Montana, Helena, Montana, 22,000 people. Pretty small town. Like, it's a big difference for a Southern California kid. And there was a lot of adjustments, but I'm so glad I said yes. So glad I put everything into the first couple months, because right away an opportunity opened up to where our Bozeman reporter was leaving. And I was the newest member of the team for SWX Montana. And I got the phone call. I was the first one to get the phone call. They said, hey, you're from SoCal. We think you're going to be the face of Bozeman, the face of Montana State. We want you down there. What do you say? And I'm like, yeah, sign me up tomorrow. So that was a great experience too, because I was actually covering 2 cities for 6 months, which is hard. I mean, that's tough. Talk about the stresses of the job. I mean, I'm driving 2 hours to Bozeman, 2 hours back because I live in Helena. But so glad I said yes. So glad I took the leap of faith, and can't wait to see where this journey takes me, because I don't know how many more winters I can do it.
Well, how did you embrace that new lifestyle and that new opportunity and that new way of living, and connect with the communities both in Helena and Bozeman now?
Well, I mean, I'm never going to fake anything. I didn't embrace it at first. I'll tell you the honest truth. I didn't. We moved in August or July of about 2.5 years ago. And it was, so winter hit about middle of October, and it was consistently 10 degrees or 10 below zero for a long time. And it was miserable. I'm not going to lie. Like, there's not a lot to do. You can't really go outside. But then I started kind of changing my mindset a little bit. And how can I not only do better at my job, but also connect with the city of Helena? And so I just started taking my business cards, and I was just passing them out to anybody and everybody when I'd go to Carroll College for a basketball game, or I'd go to Helena High volleyball game, and I'd try to find parents of these certain kids. I'd interview a lot of student athletes after the games and things like that. And I would just be like, look, this is who I am. Follow me, whatever you guys need. If you have any cool story ideas, here's my business card. Instead of having that mindset of like, oh, it's so cold, I can't do anything, woe's me attitude if I don't like it here, just try to embrace it. And that's kind of what I did. And I did so many great stories for Carroll College, their football team, basketball team, even softball was a big thing there too. And then, once you finally get into the springtime and the sun starts coming out again, it's not so bad. So I definitely embraced the community eventually, but not at first.
Sounds like that's just another example of you changing your mindset and finding a positive mindset to make the most of a situation that you're in. And you also, as you mentioned, got a promotion very quickly, being the newest reporter on the staff. What did you do? How did you earn that opportunity that they wanted you for a chance to do something bigger there?
It's a good question. I think the biggest thing that I did, we kind of talked about it earlier, was I was a yes man. I did anything and everything they wanted. If they wanted me to travel to Missoula on a Wednesday night, then Kalispell on a Thursday, then all the way to Billings on a Friday, and then down to Bozeman on Saturday, and then back to Helena on Sunday, I'm gonna do it. Why? I mean, why not? I'm gonna do whatever I can to not only get in the good graces of my sports director and my producers, including the live producers as well. But I'm also going to do everything to the best of my ability. And I think the biggest thing was my adaptability and my ability to listen to what I was, the feedback that I was getting from my producers on every single package that I was doing, and being like, okay, I see why you're saying that this color needs to be adjusted on this person's interview shot, and just all the certain little aspects, add music to this story, make it so much better, do this camera angle, do this, here's a shot I would have done, all this stuff. And I just took it all, and I took it all to heart, and I would just apply that every single package. And I think that they really enjoyed having somebody who was just so open and willing to do whatever it takes to not only be good at their job, but be someone who's reliable. And I was very reliable with these producers. I still am. Don't get me wrong. I'm not changed or anything like that, but my role has changed a bit. But I was just willing to do anything and everything they wanted. And I think they saw that, and it helped with my personality. That they wanted me in Bozeman, and they wanted me to be the guy traveling with Montana State. And I couldn't be more thankful for that.
And now, in addition to the travel, which we'll get to in just a minute, you're getting to call games, whether it be play-by-play, color commentary, or sideline reporter for Montana State, for high school games. That came from another yes when an opportunity came up. You want to tell us about that?
Yeah, so the first week I was at this job in Helena, Montana, I was approached by a live producer, and they said, hey, we're doing the live football game for Carroll College versus Montana Western. It's a big time Frontier Conference matchup. Week number 1, it was like 25 versus 23 or something like that. We want you to be the color commentator for the broadcast. And I was like, oh, that would be so awesome. But I also was like, I've never done this before live, and I am scared, like so scared. So I said yes, of course, and I was extremely nervous. The good thing is I have some of the best live producers that I'll probably ever work around here in Montana, and they help me through everything. Not only that, but the play-by-play gentleman that I work beside is the voice of the Montana Grizzlies, and he's been the voice of them for 10 years. So he did such a good job at calming my nerves. Now, when, we did a live open on the field, and when I look back at that live open, I can just tell how nervous I was, and just kind of how stiff I was. And I was just like, oh yeah, we're here, And, but now that I look back on that, it was like, if I didn't say yes to that opportunity, how many more opportunities would I have gotten? And now I've kind of become like their reliable source of, hey, we need a play-by-play guy. We definitely want Austin. Or, hey, we need a color guy to do volleyball. We need a sideline reporter for Montana State football. It's definitely Austin. So it's not only the stuff that's in the city of Bozeman because I'm the reporter in here, but that reliability and that willingness to kind of jump on board to any of opportunities has allowed me to go across the state and call games, which is awesome because not a lot of companies offer those
No.
opportunities.
Yeah, and I think back when you're talking about the live open, I remember my first one, and this was with a lot more years of experience. I remember how I felt doing my first one. So I can only imagine you just kind of getting thrown out there. But I watched it. I remember you sent me the stuff and it looked really good. And now beat reporter for Montana State, you mentioned their historic start, but you are on the road with them at times too. I think that's kind of a dream for anybody. Hey, I'm traveling with the team with a very successful college football program. What is that experience like when you get to do it?
It's amazing. And you know what? I have to give all thanks to the company that I work for. The fact that they actually care to have somebody on the road and getting that firsthand coverage for Montana State is it's all, grace to SWX, but it's awesome. I mean, I travel to every game with the football team. So for example, Montana State's on the road this week. I'll be heading to Portland, Oregon for the first time. Never been to Portland, so that's cool. They're playing the Portland State Vikings, but last year was awesome. I saw a lot of incredible places. One of my favorites was Weber State, is in Ogden, Utah. If you've never been to Ogden, Utah, it's not like a destination place, but go to Salt Lake and take a drive to Ogden, because I'll tell you what, if you can see a game at Weber State, their stadium is up on top of the mountain that overlooks the entire valley. Wow. It is absolutely beautiful. Got to go to Sacramento, went to just a bunch of different places, but it's phenomenal. I mean, yes, I have to work and I got to do live shots from the airport and, when I land and things like that, and do packages and things like that. But it is a dream. Honestly, I love traveling. That's one of my favorite parts and perks of the job, besides the play-by-play and color commentating and sidelining, is traveling. It's so fun to just be on the road with a team and being able to report on site when they're on the road, and seeing how the Montana State faithful, the fans of Montana State, they might as well be like Steeler fans. They travel so well. I mean, it's incredible. They've had more fans at some of these road games than the home team has. So it's been awesome, though. I love it. Can't wait for Portland this week. We got Eastern Washington coming up in a few weeks. The red turf, the Inferno. Excited to get to see that stadium as well. But just to get to be a part of all these different places and just having experiences of being in different cities is awesome.
And it's fun to hear you get excited about it too, because I'm sure this conference, all of that was not on your radar before you went out there. And then you went there and you experienced it. You realized how special the fan base is, how special the conference is, and now you're all in on it. And that's just an added bonus you probably hadn't thought of. And I think a bonus for the company when they hired you was they got somebody who's super creative. And I remember we had a phone conversation about you were trying to bounce around ideas for how to do this little segment, and I gave you some thoughts, and then within an hour you had this logo you had created for it. I thought that was really cool. So how does that added creativity enhance your product?
Yeah, I mean, I still thank you for that one. That was a great couple of conversations we have. That was a great segment that
What was it called again?
Frontier 55.
There you go.
Yeah. I'll never forget that one, because I was like, Chris Berman's fastest 3 minutes. How can we put that into a Frontier Conference recap? And it did really well on our shows and on our website and things like that, especially because we went all in on it, right? We had the logos, and I had it, a timer playing in the top right corner, and the music and the different editing skills and things like that. But I've gotten more creative as I've left Helena and come to Bozeman. And I think that just comes with experience too. Like, I find myself thinking all the time, just when I'm getting ready for work, I'll have random thoughts come into my head, like, oh, this would be really fun for a stand-up, or really cool interview to do it this way or do it that way. And the biggest thing is, you don't want to look at somebody on TV as a reporter and just see them standing in front of the camera 24/7. Like that, it's going to get repetitive. Not only repetitive, it's also going to get a little boring, right? I mean, for lack of a better term. With Montana State, it's a little bit different, because it's like your basic job is to deliver the facts for the school, for the university, for the football team. It's a little more serious in that aspect. But where the creativity comes in is with the editing, right? The way I edit certain things for Montana State, I put a lot of time into slowing certain things down and putting transitions in there. But the fun part with the stand-ups and doing creative stuff on television comes at the high school level. And these parents and these students, they love it. I mean, so one of my favorite stand-ups I did for the football season is I had the scoreboard. So pretend like the blinds is the football scoreboard at the high school, and I had it zoomed in on the scoreboard, and it's me like popping up on the little black screen on the scoreboard, and I said a part of my stand-up, and then it zooms out, and it's now me standing on the grass, but the scoreboard is still behind me. And it was just a creative way to get myself on, using the different tools of Premiere to get myself on the scoreboard, like I was an announcer, for the high school football game, but there wasn't a game going on.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
The parents absolutely love it. So it's just anything you can do to enhance, like you said, how does it enhance your product? It's just like these parents and these students, they love it. They love that stuff. They love the creativity. And it's also you can be creative with how you write certain things as well. It's not always visual. I think writing is a big important aspect. I get a lot of comments from some of these parents when I do their features is they comment on how I tell the story, right? It's how I wrote it and not just the editing and how I made him look really cool when I slowed down his catch and put a crazy transition on there. And I've got music and doing all kinds of cool stuff. It's also like you really told the story in a special way. And one of the stories that I really hold near and dear to my heart is I did a story in the softball season for Manhattan. It's a very small town right outside of Bozeman. And they unfortunately had a softball player pass away before the season started. She was also a volleyball player. She passed away in the fall of 23. And so the entire school year was kind of dedicated to her. I actually wear a bracelet every day. It says "Be a Light" right here, and it says "Live Like D" hashtag, and it's "Live Like Delaney." So I did a story on them, and I did a feature about the team and about Delaney and who she was, and I had to obviously tell her story for the people that didn't know outside of Manhattan, because this was going across the entire state of Montana. But the way I wrote it, I was most proud of that part of it. Yes, the editing was very good. Yes, the video was great, and the interview subjects were great and stuff too. But I was most proud about the way I wrote that story. And every single person, not that I was intending to do this, but this is just how the story was. It was very somber. Everybody emailed me, texted me, like I've been in tears watching this entire thing. Like I just got to them emotionally, but they were so proud of how I told their daughter's story, like the parents of Delaney as well. And so I'll have that one's on the demo reel right now. I'll have to send that out to people if they want to see that. But I don't know. I've been kind of like, I need to put more of my stuff out there. I've been kind of like reserved because I think I've had this feeling in my brain. And I know I'm getting super off track here, but I've had this like thought of like, am I good enough yet? I always think that, And so I haven't really been the guy that's like always posting my stuff on like, like LinkedIn for everybody else to see, but I'm very proud of that story, and I'll definitely put that one out there.
Yeah, and you are good enough. So put it out there.
Thanks.
Let people see, shine your light for everybody else to see too. Be a light, right? So last big question. What's kind of the next step for you in the industry? Where do you hope your dreams lead you as you continue on this path you've created for yourself?
Yeah, it's a question that I've thought of, and you and I have had a bunch of conversations with this one as well, but I'm not 100% sure on where the next move is going to be. It could be a reporter in a big time city, not a big time, but like maybe a bigger market jump to some of those tiers that you and I were talking about. I'd love to continue reporting. I love my job. I love everything about it. Hopefully maybe we can get a photog on the next stop, but
Sure.
just take away one of those 5 jobs that I have to do, but ultimately my dream job, and I feel most comfortable, is when I put the headset on and I call games. I love play-by-play so much. I have such a passion for it. I have a passion for everything. I think you could probably tell with how I speak just about this whole podcast, but my true passion lies with play-by-play. Doesn't matter what sport, golf, baseball, basketball, football. I'll do anything. I'll do any of it. My ultimate goal, and one of my favorites right now, is Joe Davis. He's the voice of the Dodgers, but he also does the NFL now on Fox, and he also does, the MLB postseason. I know everybody's mad that he's doing the Dodgers series, but still, being that versed in play-by-play and being able to not only be the voice of a team, but then also go and call a different sport in the NFL and call MLB postseason and things like that. That's my ultimate dream. And that's where I want to go in this industry. How I'm going to get there, we don't really know yet, but contract is coming up, and we'll see where the next journey or the next stop is outside of Montana. Somewhere warm, hopefully.
Yeah, sometimes you don't know where that's going to be. You didn't expect to be in Montana, and who knows where it's going to be next, but I think you're well on the right path. All right, last thing I like to do, we call it the dream sequence. Quick fire answers from you on 3 topics. You just mentioned it. We talked about baseball earlier, but you're also a big golf guy. Who would be your dream golf foursome, you and 3 other people?
Oh, that's a tough one. Quick answer. Okay. Tiger Woods, Scotty Scheffler, Arnold Palmer.
Man, you really want to look bad out there. Those guys are going to crush you.
It's just the knowledge. I feel like I'd be a much better golfer.
Oh, yeah, for sure. For sure. And it'd be fun to watch, too. It'd be fun to talk to them.
100%.
All right. Dream travel opportunity with the football team. You've been to some cool places you told us about earlier. Where would be the dream of where you could go?
With this specific football team?
It could be, I mean, they can play anybody, right? You want them to play Georgia, they could play Georgia, like whoever it is.
Okay, well, I'm gonna give you 2 answers. Right now, the dream opportunity would be Frisco, Texas. Knock on wood, because you know where that is, right?
Mm-hmm, I do.
That is the host side of the national championship, and if they're there, the exposure factor that will help me covering a national championship game would be awesome. So Frisco, Texas, we'll take it that. And then I'd say if it was any team in the FBS, that's a tough one. That's a great question. I'll go Tuscaloosa. I feel like that environment, that stadium, the passion that those fans in the SEC has, that would be incredible.
I like that. And I can tell you from covering national championships, the other thing that's fun is it's kind of almost like you're like a celebrity sightseer while you're out there, right? Because you're seeing all these big time athletes and sometimes big time actors and stuff. They're all around. Right. It's a really neat experience. So in addition to the exposure, you'll get to do a little celebrity stalking as well. So that's fun. All right, final one. Being out there in Bozeman, big Yellowstone country out there. What would be your dream cameo acting role on Yellowstone be?
That's a funny question. Like who would I want to play, or how would
you can take this however you want to take it.
Okay.
What type of character you want to play, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, I would want to be. It's tough because they don't really do a lot of kind of sports stuff in Yellowstone at all, really. Mm-hmm. But I would want to somehow be a commentator on livestock. Let's put it that way. Said I become the voice of the cattle ranch and the livestock production or something.
Well, you could do the rodeo stuff, right? Like you could be the commentator for that.
Yeah, they do show some rodeo stuff, but I want to be involved in a lot of scenes. So I want to be like the voice of the livestock for the Yellowstone Ranch. So we'll go with that.
Okay, that's pretty good. I like that. Final question. What advice do you have for young broadcasters who might, or not, they don't have to be young, they could be old too. Any broadcaster wants to follow in your footsteps.
The biggest advice I have, what I've learned so much over the years is it's all about what you put in what you get. I know we hear that statement a lot, but it's all about effort. If you don't try, if you don't constantly try to be the best version of yourself, like somebody once said, then you're never going to grow. And if you never grow, you're never going to make it to where you want to go with your dreams and aspirations in this business. It's one of the most competitive businesses on the planet. And if you're not trying to be better every single day, somebody's going to pass you and you're never going to be able to get to where you want to go. So put in the effort. Put in the effort. That's all it takes is effort to be great in this industry, and you'll get what you put in. So take everything seriously and be a yes man for a little while. It'll open up a lot of doors and gain you a lot of opportunities. That's for sure.
That's Austin Parr. I want to thank him very much for his time today in the middle of football season for what's been a great episode. A lot of takeaways for me from growth to all the abilities, right? Adaptability, reliability, flexibility. There's a lot of abilities that Austin has shared with us today. He's living his dream. Everyone else, keep on living your dream.